Hi, this is Jeff Woods once again from iTelescope.net, ADB Jester on Flickr and Facebook, demonstrating the image processing of a region near the North American Nebula. This is part 4. We're in the middle of just about getting ready to put our luminance back in after reducing the stars as we did in part 3. I left you, I was trying to clean up the halo around this star, and I was having a little bit of trouble, so I didn't want to make you sit through it all. And indeed I had quite a bit of trouble, but in the end I invented a new method on the fly that I think worked pretty well. I mean, the artifact is still there, but not nearly as badly as it was. So I'm going to demonstrate that on the two blue stars we have down here. But before we do that, I told you that we had selected all of these other stars, and everything we did with the color adjustments happened to these stars too, and we don't want that to happen. So how do we limit the effect to just this one star that we wanted to clean up? Well, the way we do that is with a mask. In the world of Photoshop masking, white reveals and black conceals. So if I had a mask to everything we just did here in black, oops, let's try that again, in black, let's try that yet a third time. Why is that not, why can't I get into the mask? Is it a no, it's a vector mask. That's why. Let's add a layer mask to it and go into the layer mask. Okay. You're going to be picky, are you? All right. Deselect. Put the mask on it. Now black is concealing all of the work we did, and we can see that if that's what it looks like after I did all of the work. I disabled the mask, and this is what it looks like before. But all of those color adjustments happen to every star, even the stars that didn't have problems. To show that, we're going to reselect everything we did, and let's zoom out and find one of those stars that we affected. Let's take the marching ants off and deactivate our mask here to let that through. Well, look what that did. That made that star with a green halo, and it did an awful lot of bad things. That's bad. It almost made that star disappear. So what we really want is to only reveal the work we did on this star. And the way we do that is to paint directly on the mask. Remember, black conceals and white reveals. So if we want to reveal all of the work we did here, we're concealing everything, and now we're going to use a white paintbrush, and we're going to paint not on our image. When we paint on our image, we're going to just be painting white, and that's not good. We're going to paint on the mask itself. And as we paint white on here, that's going to let through all of the work that we did on this image. Now, I'm only painting at 40% opacity. This particular adjustment was fine, so I'm just going to paint 100% all around our image. Now our mask looks very odd, and in fact it corresponds directly to our selection, and this gives you a good image of what feathering does. If black conceals completely and white reveals completely, then anything that's gray reveals partially. So feathering, in essence, blurs the border between a selected region and an unselected region. Now I can continue to paint here. Looks like I missed a spot right around the center there. Yeah. Now if I paint outside the mask a little bit, it doesn't matter. If I paint outside the selection, it doesn't matter, because that selection didn't have anything done to it. All of our work was done inside the selection. So I can sit here and paint this all day and it won't matter. As long as I have everything that we did. Let's go back and look at our image now. And yes, indeed, there's the cleaned up work I did without the, when the mask is on and off, it doesn't affect it. If I turn the whole thing off, then our problems come back. And it looks like I missed a little bit out there, but I'm not going to go back and clean that up at this point. So let's deselect everything, and I'm going to go do a selective color pickup on our stars with big halos here, and I will be right back after I've made that selection. Okay, I've got everything selected here. Why did it just go away? Because I didn't stay on Photoshop, that's why. Everything is selected here, and unfortunately we've selected an awful lot more this time than we did last time. But that's okay. It looks like some of these stars really need it. I don't want to take out all of that color. I mean, that star is going to be a beautiful blue once we're done with that. But I want to take out very specifically the big flare from the optics that came here. I'm going to leave everything selected. We'll mask out everything we didn't want to affect again. So what did I do? What method did I invent to clean up this area? Well, after my selective color started not working very well, and I'm going to expand by 6 pixels and feather back 3. What happened, let's turn that off, and let's work in selective color again, get as close as we can, and then I'll show you what I did, because it's a really neat trick and I don't think it's ever been done before. So adjustments, selective color, and again we're going to go into our greens and we're going to take the cyan out. Why is that not working? It's not the cyans. That's what's mainly around the star. Is it the blues? No, that's mainly around the star again. Yellows? That's on the outer edges over here. I might have to brute force this one. Magentas? No. Well, there's a certain degree of that. Is it the neutrals? Can we do that? Oh, yeah, look at that. Take this cyan out of the neutrals. Again, we're trying to match this color as close as we can. Darken it down, not as much magenta. And that's not bad. It's a little purple for my taste. That's not bad. Can we do that and desaturate? Image saturation. Bring that down and bring the lightness. Now that is actually not bad. We still have a little blue in the star. That's certainly quite a bit better. Now we still see the flare of the ring around it, and that's where I came up with the interesting solution to our problem. Earlier I was using what's known as the clone stamp tool, and the clone stamp tool, or it's actually the healing brush, it used to be called the clone stamp. You tell it, copy this color here to there. And if we zoom in on that, you can really see it work. I'll say copy from here to there, here to there. And it starts to take that ring out a little bit, especially since it's not really inside our selection. So, yeah, look at that. Take there to there, there to there, there to there, there to there. And we start to darken it down. But it leaves these artifacts behind, and that's what I came up with the interesting method of using a solution to. Let's finish up and move some of this in here. Now, that's what it was before. Now this color out here is color we want to keep. We only want this circle. So we will mask that out. But before we do, let's get rid of all of those artifacts I just put in there with a blur. Gaussian blur. And that solved our problem quite nicely. Now again, we have two of these stars. Let's see what the other one looks like with the fix. Not so much. I might want to handle that one separately. Well, it looks quite a bit better, but we've turned it very deep red, and we've left these artifacts. What does that look like full size? You know what? This is color. It doesn't matter. That's going to look great. So let's put our mask on the image. Select, deselect. So we don't use our selection as the mask. We will put a black conceals on there. And now we can take a quick look at the difference from out here. Now that affected a lot of our blue stars up here. And it affected a lot of them very heavily. I mean, it made them all almost purple. In fact, I think too purple throughout. Let's go back into selective color. From out here, it looks bad. Why can't I do selective color? Because I am on the mask and not on the color. And let's take the magenta out. And that will make them less purple. Now our halos are gone, but now our stars are not as purple as they were. In fact, I might do that twice. Let's go into the magentas. Yeah, we can't do any more. Well, let's go in and see if move just a little bit of the purple out of those. Not a whole lot, just a little. Okay. So now those stars with the halos are cleaned up. It's what they were before. And they're still very red. We're going to lose a lot of our star color if we do that on these. We're not going to do it on those, though. We're going to do it on our two problem child stars here, and maybe to a lesser extent on that one. So let's do that. Let's go into our paintbrush mode. This time we're going to do 100% down here, because we want to take, let's not even mess around. Let's just get a nice big brush. We're going to take all of that out. Okay. And I'm going to lower the opacity on this one. This one's not as bad. So maybe we don't want to do all of it. Maybe we just want to go around. Oh, look at that. That's nice. In fact, maybe that's the solution. Just go around it a couple of times. Not the full effect, but enough to take the halo out without taking the color of the stars out. Now we also wanted to look at that one up here that had the jet and paint on it just once. Just enough to, well, you know what? Just enough to take it down. In fact, that's still too much. So I'm going to set my opacity down to about 25%. I just want to tweak it down just the tiniest little bit. All right, there we go. There is our cleaned up, blurred, almost starless field. And you'll notice we're going to let the blue through on all of these other blue stars, and that's going to be a good thing. So now we want to bring our luminance, our crispness, sharpness, and detail back in. So let's go to our original unstretched luminance image. And before we do anything to it, we're just going to copy it on as a new layer. Now, all of this we need to flatten. That's just one base image now, and we're going to paste our luminance right on top. Before we do that, I'm going to step back once. We're going to do something to really sharpen up our luminance image. We're going to do a high-pass filter. And that's going to really give us some contrast in this image. Look at the gnarls and the knots in this dust cloud. We can sharpen that up and really make it pop. So I'm going to make a copy. And this technique uses what's called the overlay blend mode. Now that looks terrible because it just gives us the difference. It brightens the bright things and darkens the dark things. But on this copy, I'm going to apply a filter called the high pass filter. And the high pass filter turns everything gray, except it makes things that are along the edges of things brighter. So that gives us a lot more contrast. So with the amount of sharpening we get out of this, I'm going to zoom in just a little bit on that, depends on whether we want to affect large scale structures, which would be the whole nebula cloud. We apply it over the range of 70 pixels or more, or whether we want to do it on very small scale structures like the stars, or somewhere in the middle like the knots in the clouds. So somewhere right around 11, I think, is pretty good. As I move this, I'm going to watch those clouds and see what they do and see where I like it. Now, the edge of those clouds are glowing quite a bit extra in these dark knots at 17. Let's compare that to 11. And we still get the contrast here. That looks about right to me. Let's see what it looks like out here. Yes. All right, so now that we've done that, we can flatten that, and now we have a very sharp, crisp, contrasty luminance that we can bring in here. And this is where it gets really exciting, because this is going to be very close to our final image. All I have to do is show this in luminosity blend mode. Now, that doesn't look anything like Rob Gendler's image, does it? Wow, no, that doesn't look the same. Well, the reason for that is we haven't done anything to our luminosity. That we've just taken the original and pasted it over. The reason we do it this way is we can keep them separate, and I can manipulate only the luminosity now, and I don't have to guess on my levels and curves. Now this is on top of my image. I can bring things up and curve them any way I want while watching my histogram. I can pretty much bring out anything I want. If I wanted to do it via a gamma stretch, bringing the darks all the way down, that's good. Okay. And there's a lot of other things we can do to enhance from here, but this is starting to bring out the detail that I had hoped to get. Now the colors are still a little off. The intensity, maybe we did a little too much on that oxygen 3, not the oxygen 3, on the high pass filter. So I'm going to experiment with this because I want to try and get this fairly close to what was there before, and I will come back in part 5 and show you the final enhancements that we will do to the image to bring out the pop and the color.